Hey, what's going on, everybody? I got another project for you guys, another build for the channel here. So we're going to be doing a bag build on this right here. This is a 2016 Dodge Challenger SXT Plus. We are going to be throwing this on Airlift 3P3H. So this does have everything in the kit. He actually got the height sensors, everything with it. I'm not 100% if we're going to be doing the height sensors yet. We're definitely going to run the wires for it. We're probably going to be installing the height sensors later on another project or another time, but just not directly during this install. So this does already have a Mopar brace in here, so we do have to address that, get that situated and fitted with the actual air kit. But overall, this should be a fun one, guys. Stay tuned for the bag build. Alright guys, so the first thing we need to do here is we got to get this rear strut bar, strut brace, strut tower brace, whatever you want to call it. This Mopar brace here, we got to get it off because we are going to be putting the carpets back in for this air suspension install. We're going to have the tank and everything mounted right here. So, you know, the carpet is obviously going to have to be in to get this, you know, cleanly mounted. But with this rear brace here, it prevents the bottom lining from completely going in. So it blocks right there. So what we're going to have to do is modify that to fit with this rear brace. So what we're going to do first is just take this brace out, and then from there we can start mapping out everything and figuring out how we want to modify the bottom mat so we can fit this in here along with our air suspension. Alright guys, so this brace was already installed on the car. We had no lining. We're going to have to get this installed correctly so we can utilize all the carpets in the trunk as well as get our air suspension mounted cleanly. So what we're going to do first is just go ahead and get this thing out of here. So is we're going to go ahead and try to start mocking up this carpet so we can figure out how we're going to lay it out with that actual brace. So this is a 3P3H install, so it actually comes with a pre-made harness, and we got dual compressors, so we have the extra harness for dual compressors. These are both of our harnesses right here. Alright. Now, I'm not 100% if I'm going to install the 3H height sensors, but we are going to run the wires because, we might actually get them done and get them installed. So this is, essentially what we're starting at. We're going to start with the wiring, and then from there we can go ahead and move on to the layout and get everything plumbed and situated from there. So let's start with getting this harness built up, get everything mapped out so it fits in the car perfectly, and we got everything wired exactly how it needs to be. Alright guys, this probably looks like a crazy spaghetti mess, but I promise it isn't. So this is just a little map out of how all the wiring is going to fall in line. So basically, if you come over here, this is our pink ignition source wire, so we're going to have to run that to a keyed ignition source, okay? Now this is a Challenger that we're working on, so you know the battery's in the trunk, so this actually in some ways makes it a little bit easier. I might try to find a key ignition source just from the trunk, but you know I could run it up to the front if I need to and get a source from there. That is the controller wire, so that will need to run to the front. That's going to go up to, you know, obviously the driver's side, so we can have the controller nice and pretty for easy access. Now here, this is our 2 relays. Keep in mind we are doing 2 compressors, so essentially this harness over here is just a 3P regular harness, and then when you get dual compressors, this harness comes into play and falls in line with the actual 3P harness, 3H harness, whatever you want to call it. You know, they work with both. So right here is the 3H harness. This is where the height sensors would go. Here's all the height sensors. They would click into these little harnesses, of course. This right here is our compressors. So this is 1 compressor, this is 2 compressors. That's just the relays for them. That is the manifold harness, so that's what's going to plug into the manifold. And then these 2 over here, that's coming from the actual 3P's regular harness, that is for the battery, power, and ground. Then we got another one right here for battery and ground for the second compressor. So these are just, you know, straight 12-volt battery source, ground, it's metal of course, and that's essentially the whole harness mapped out right here for you guys. Now we just got to put it in the car. So let's go ahead and get this wired in and we'll see where we're at, guys. Alright guys, so we found our ignition source. That was the first move, just to, you know, get this mapped out. We're going to use number 12, the ignition. That is the cigarette lighter, number 12. Alright, now, there's the fuse. We got the 3 amp fusible wire that came with it. Alright, now, just to verify, you want to use a voltmeter. Alright. So with the car off, we're not, you know, we're like at 31.31, so obviously not getting 12 volts. Now what we're going to do is switch the key, and then we're going to see if it gets 12 volts with the key on. Alright guys, accessory and ignition is on. Let's go back to the voltmeter. So we're at 0. Alright guys, we're at 12 volts. So that fuse is a keyed ignition source. It's not a constant 12. That is what we want for this pink accessory ignition wire. Alright. Now I'm just going to even take the wire here for a second. This might be hard to do one-handed, but I want to touch it where it's exposed. Yep. There we go. Yep, 12. Touching it. We're good, guys. So that is our ignition source. The dual compressor harness and the Airlift 3H 3P harness are now fully installed. You can see we have our compressor wires popping out right here, and they're going to go directly to the compressor. So this is going to get grounded with the compressor ground. That's going to connect right with the compressor. So they're going to come up and over the carpet. There's the harness plugging into the manifold. Okay. There is the connection wire between the two harnesses. Our relay is sitting right there. Controller wire running out. Alright, got this cleanly ran with the factory wire. You can see our two fuses right there. It's going right to the positive, and then we got our two negatives going to that ground right there. Now usually I like to do a 4-gauge wire with a distribution block for a dual compressor setup. Have just, you know, one 4-gauge runner from the battery, and then just have the compressor wires going right to the other side of the distribution block. But since the battery was in the trunk, it was, you know, pretty simple just to run these two wires directly to the battery individually. You know, normally, like I said, I wouldn't do this, but since it's right here, I mean, it kind of made it easy, and there was no need to use some power wire or a distribution block when we can just run it right to the battery. And it almost looks factory, because if you look, even the factory has some of that braided, you know, plastic wire cover over there. It's just like the Airlift wire. So this looks really factory and clean in my opinion. And only thing from here we have to do is finish running our controller wire, and we're going to connect up the height sensors right here. Now the only thing is, I'm not 100% if we're going to be installing the height sensors yet. I would like to, but if we don't, the car is still going to be wired for them. So we're going to go ahead and finish wiring this thing up, and then we're going to move on to running the Airlines. Alright guys, so car is essentially wired. We do still need to run the height sensor wires, which would be going to this harness right here. Okay, now the thing is, to run the harness wires for the height sensors and to also run the Airlines, we're going to have to get from inside of the cabin here to the outside of the car. Now, usually I'm able to find a grommet, you know, something where the rear seat is around the fuel pump to utilize, and luckily we did. You don't really want to go drilling in around the fuel pump or fuel tank. It's just sketchy business. Not that you can't, but you know, it's never the most unrisky thing to do. But what I did is I found this hole right here. Once you lift on the Challengers, these back mats here, they have these padded mats. You can lift these up. It had this plastic piece covering that hole. Alright, so this plastic piece was in here, popped it up on this side. This one also has a little bit bigger port here. This was oval shaped. Only thing is, it is underneath of this wiring right here, so you do kind of got to play with it, lift it up and move it. But if you can see, this is going to be hard, guys. Hold on. You can see there's the hole right there, guys. Alright, so I'm going to pull up the harness wires through there, and we are going to run the Airlines through this hole. Now I've already confirmed these are accessible, so I have a test airline right here. I did put 4 lines through here just to make sure 4 lines could fit, and they do. But you can, you know, feed these right through. Okay, as you can see, and they do come out on that bottom side. So how you would see it on the bottom is you do have to take off these splash shields right here, these plastic splash shields. They do essentially you know, mount here and right underneath the fuel tanks. Okay, so it's just 5-10 mil washer nuts and 3 push clips. Got them on both sides. Okay, see, we got them both off, and that's going to give us access on the bottom to utilize these holes right here. Okay, so let's start running these lines and wires and see if we can get this knocked out, guys. Alright guys, so here is the left driver's side wiring for the height sensors. So you can see we got the two going through our hole here. Alright, so that's both of the left ones. This wire was for our controller, so we got everything ran cleanly underneath this mat here that goes underneath of the back seat and into the trunk. Then here is the right passenger side. This might be a little bit harder to see because this does have the OE wiring almost covering up the hole, but there we go. You see it? Okay. So that is where both of the wires are coming out. They're going right under this mat as well. So really all we got to do now is get the Airlines through those holes on their respective side, and then from there we should be good. Alright guys, so we're in the trunk just so you can see the harness wiring for the height sensors that I got plugged in right here. You can see they're shooting right down with the controller wire. So that's the driver's side plugged up. There is the other side. And then we got them running right underneath the mat alongside of our factory wiring. So pretty much this is all going to be coming out of the carpet. So that is the manifold harness, compressor harnesses right here. Okay, so all these are going to be outside of the mat, but everything else is going to be cleanly ran underneath the mat right here that comes from the trunk into the back seat. Alright guys, so we're going to move on to running the Airlines. Alright, we are utilizing the same holes that we did for the height sensor. So what I'm going to do is kind of partner running the Airline with running the actual height sensor wire. So you can see we already got the wires coming through for the height sensors on both sides. Alright, it's probably going to be a little hard to see this side, but they're there. They're coming through the hole right at the bottom. Okay, so we have our height sensor wiring ran. Alright, so now what we need to do is get the Airlines run. Now I'm partnering the actual Airline running with the height sensor running because essentially these are going to the same spot. You know, they all go to the respective corners. So here is all of our height sensor wiring coming out of the hole on the driver's side. And then we come over to the passenger side. You can see we got our height sensor wiring coming right out. Alright, so what we're going to do now is feed the Airline through same grommets or same holes, whatever you want to call them. Alright, we're going to go through those holes with the Airline, and then that way we can get these Airlines outside of the car, and then they can be ran with the height sensor wiring to each of their respective corners. Alright guys, so here is our big roll of Airline. Now when you get an Airlift system kit, whatever, it comes with a big roll of Airline. It's kind of weird. I mean, it depends maybe on the car or you know, what kit you get, but some seem to come with a lot of Airline, some don't seem to come with that much. So the last car I did came with a really good amount of Airline, and I actually have spare, but this doesn't seem like it came with that much. So even if we run out, we do have some spare. But when you cut this stuff, how I do it, I go corner by corner. So I wouldn't suggest, you know, cutting this into 4 pieces for each corner. You know, you might need a little bit more somewhere, or you might need a little bit less like somewhere that you could use somewhere else. So you know, this is something that you should probably just take corner by corner. I'm just going to feed it through to each side and then cut as I go along for each corner. I think I'm going to go with the back first. So we're probably just going to go ahead and start right here with our back driver's side. Go right to this grommet with the Airline. So I'll run the first one to the back corner, and then we'll move on to going through the same hole to the front, and then we'll move on to the passenger side and run the Airline to each one of those passenger corners. Alright guys, so I'm going to start this as we're just going to start feeding it through our hole here. So let's see where our wires are for our height sensor. We can see them coming right through here. Okay, so I'm going to try to avoid, sorry for the crappy camera work guys, trying to keep this mat out of the way, work and show you guys at the same time. But I'm going to try to avoid this wire path and go underneath of them with the Airline. So let's go ahead and feed the Airline through, see if we can get it done here. It's probably gonna be tight. Yeah, it's tight, but we got it. Let's go see where it's coming out on the bottom end. I don't know if we can see it yet. Yeah, I see it. Alright guys, I don't know if you can see it, but there it is right there shooting out. So honestly don't need much at all right here. It's probably got enough slack to be honest, but we'll pull it down a hair more. Alright, and we got our slack here for the back corner guys. So all we got to do now is get this actually ran to the trunk. Alright guys, back in the car. So as you know, we just got the driver's side left rear knocked out, so we got the airline ran to it. We got it coming back through here. So what I did was I closed the seat here and then mocked up where I wanted to run the airline, and I cut it so we probably got a little bit of extra slack for where it's going to go, but we're going to essentially run it up underneath the mat, kind of similar to how we ran our wiring. And we got to factor in that there's going to be the inner lining side form carpets here, so we're going to have it shooting up right out of here. It's going to come up, come out, and lead right to the center here, or it's going to be ran right to the manifold. So literally all we have to do is run that airline from that hole up through here and then right out. Alright guys, so we have the rear left driver airline ran. As you can see, I marked it, so once all four of these airlines are in here, we know which one is which to put to the right spot. It's probably got a bit more slack than we needed, but you know, it's going to be shooting out right here to about right where my index finger is. That's where it's going to be, roughly around the manifold. So we got it shooting up right out of where we wanted it to be. Take this thing over here, I'll show you guys. Let's close the seat, show you guys where it's at, and you can see it's shooting up right here with all three of our wires right here. All right, so this is the controller wire, these two right here, height sensor wires. That's the airline, so all of it's falling in the line right here into that same location. So let's go ahead and get this last airline for the front into this hole, then we can be done with the driver's side in its entirety, and we can get this formed back into the side of the car and get it, you know, how it's supposed to be factory. Alright guys, so just to give you an idea how this airline is being ran. As you know, we got the rear driver done. You guys can see it, a crappy camera work, but you can see it's shooting right there. Here is the driver front, so we got it coming down. If I take it out, pull this thing tight, gets it right to about the center of the wheel, and underneath the car that'll be more than enough slack. So this one's good. Now we just got to run this airline up into the trunk. You can see we're still attached here into our big roll, but coming right out of our hole here into the car. So we got all four things that need to be in this hole in there, which is the two height sensor wire harnesses and the two airlines, which is all for the left driver's side. So all that is in the hole. All we got to do now is get this airline into the trunk, and then essentially, other than running everything cleanly underneath of the car, the left side driver will be done with all of the airlines and height sensor wiring into the trunk. Alright guys, so we have the driver's side left done. We look at our hole here. As you can see, I showed you guys last time, controller wire, two height sensor wires, two airlines, all for the driver's side, coming out of our hole. Cleanly ran up tight and nice underneath this mat. We do have to tuck that mat back in, but as you can see on the other side into the trunk, both coming out right where we wanted them to. Shooting into the trunk, some extra slack, both labeled with their appropriate corner, so they get installed into the correct hole on the manifold and everything works. So there we go guys, driver's side done, airlines ran, harnesses ran for the height sensors, and really all we got to do is get under the car now, and then we can get all this fully wired up and installed Alright guys, so it might be hard to see, but everything in the trunk is done. We got everything wired. The Airlines are ran into the trunk. Everything's good. So as you can see, we got the harness all fused up. Harness ran with the OE wiring. Here is the connections for our height sensors. It might look like a little bit spaghetti right now, but that's going to be coming out of the carpet to the one compressor. This will be coming out of the carpet to the other compressor. Then here is our Airlines. These will also be coming out of the carpet to the manifold. Two on each side. As you can see, we got them shooting out of the same spot on both sides. There's a manifold harness that will also be coming out of the carpet on the back end, but most of this will just be shooting right out of the back of the carpet. Anything you see that's obviously, you know, shooting up, but everything else is mounted in, clean. And there we go, guys. That is our entire trunk set up. I'm gonna give you guys another view inside real quick. So, as you know, we did the driver's side already with the Airlines and the height sensor harnesses. And there we go, guys. This is everything. Might be hard to see with this OE wiring, as you know, blocking our hole here, but there we go. Two Airlines right here, two height sensor wires. Everything is shooting up cleanly, right alongside of all the OE wiring. So everything's good, guys. Everything is shooting out to the outside of the car. Our trunk is done. We just got to get this mat put in there cleanly again. And really, we just got to run the wiring now to each height sensor, to the back and the front, along with the Airline going to each respective corner. And we should be good. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and start getting this Airline and this height sensor harness ran. I'm going to go ahead and start with our passenger right front. And I'm going to go ahead and essentially run these together. And then from here, we can move on to the rear. All I'm doing over here on the passenger side, guys, is just essentially running it with the fuel lines coming off right here. So we're just gonna essentially run them right down the same line as the fuel lines. Alright guys, so we do have passenger side here done, essentially, so it's actually finalized with the install of the bags and everything. But as you can see, we got the wire right here for the harness coming down, just enough slack. Airline running right to where the bag's going to be for the rear. If you follow this where the fuel lines are, it might be a little tight for you to see, but that's where the front passenger harness wire for the sensor and the Airline's going. So there's all that. Now I'm going to clean this up here, but there's just about enough Airline with a little bit of slack to go right to the front, and then all this extra slack here I'm probably going to end up zip tying and putting behind this splash guard right here for the harness. But in the rear here, what we did with the slack is I took this mat underneath of the back seat out again, and I just tightened up the slack right here. So if there ever is a need for a little bit more slack, or we want to put a little bit more back in here for the rear, we can just do it right here. So let me move, see if I can get you guys a view in here. Might be hard to see, guys, but there it is. You can see everything coming out clean right there. And then we're just going to touch this zip tied wire right behind the stock wiring. All right. This is all back in there nice and tight. And we're just going to be doing the same thing for the driver's side. And that should essentially wrap up the back as far as all the wiring is concerned. Guys, so all the Airlines and all of the height sensor wires are officially ran. So if you look over here at the driver's side, did the same thing that we did on the passenger. You know, tucked away all the slack from the rear harness. I pulled it up through, so if you can see, it might be hard here, but still got everything ran. All here, 2 Airlines or 2 harnesses cleanly to the trunk right here. And we got this sitting here right to the side. All right, and then from here, I hope and I think that we're officially done underneath of this back seat. So see, that's all tucked away. We got our mat tucked away as it was factory. Can't see any of our wires or Airlines. All right, now if we go under the car, as you can see, we got the Airlines shooting out to the back passenger corner. And then we got the other one shooting to the back driver corner. That is the height sensor right there. Height sensor wire right there. All right, now they're going to get tucked real quick, but I did tuck the front up. So if we look, I ran the driver's side with the e-brake. It might be kind of hard to see, but right along the e-brake cable is the Airline for the front and the height sensor wire. All right. I got the height sensor wire tucked away right there, right now underneath of that splash guard. And then we got the Airline shooting right in. And if you can see, the Airline's coming out right there. Obviously it's a little bit extra slack, but we're going to get this thing right to the braided line for the front air strut. So that's good. We come over to the passenger side. Same deal. See the Airline shooting out of our splash guard. Like I said, on the driver's side, I ran it with the e-brake cable over here. All of this is ran with the fuel line. Fuel lines, I should say. So you can see it coming right out that back hole. Coming right down with the fuel lines. Going right into the splash guard like the other side. Height sensor wire tucked away. Airline shooting right in there. So there we go, guys. This is officially wired. All Airlines are ran. Alright guys, all we gotta do, now that our Airline and our height sensor wires are ran, is just get these 2 plastic splash guard covers right back in their spots underneath of the car. So we just gotta mount these back up, cover some of the Airline and wiring, and we should be good.